Doses of deception. Open your eyes.
You can't handle the truth.
Pills on the table, scripts in their hand, money for the making, any way they can. Decades in the trenches, her wounds run deep, lifting the veil on the secrets they keep. They sold us comfort, they sold us lies, but the matrix cracks when we open our eyes. Doses of deception, silence our choice. She's restoring our freedom with a soothing voice. Medicine needs the matrix, no compromise. Doses of deception, open your eyes.
They knew about this and the antidote was already available. That's what Operation Warp Speed was. And Big Pharma came in and warped it.
In a world drowning in deception, where truth is twisted, facts are fabricated, and chaos reigns, we distill the lies until only clarity remains.
Well, hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to Deception Distilled, Clarity in the Chaos, episode number 2. Today is April the 24th, 2026. Patrick is currently traveling. He is heading up to New York. He will be joining us shortly, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So glad you guys are joining us and so glad that you guys are supporting the show. It is amazing all the support that this brand new little show is getting, and we couldn't be more grateful. So this past Saturday, President Trump held a news conference in the Oval where he signed an executive order that was titled Accelerating Medical Treatments for Serious Mental Illness. Over 14 million American adults live currently with serious mental illness, and 8 million are actually already on prescription medications. Our suicide rates keep climbing, and for veterans, it's an absolute national disgrace. More than 6,000 veteran suicides occur every year. And since 9/11, listen to this stat. Since 9/11, more veterans have died by suicide than in combat. I mean, think about that. It's unacceptable. So this executive order directs federal agencies to fast-track research, regulatory review, and access to certain psychedelic compounds for treatment-resistant things like depression, PTSD, and substance use disorders. And they specifically called out Ibogaine. The EO also matches funding. HHS is putting up $50 million to work with states like Texas, who are already moving on psychedelic programs. The executive order expands access under the Right to Try Act, even for Schedule 1 substances like Ibogaine. And the Schedule 1s are the ones that they consider having no medical positive effect. And it's things like heroin, LSD, psilocybin. Well, Ibogaine is also considered Schedule 1. Well, the executive order tells the AG to review rescheduling anything that succeeds in trials. And they will also be collaborating with the VA for more clinical trials specifically for the veterans. So I wanted to show you guys this. This is RFK posting from 2024. I got to make this big. See, Patrick can read these. I have to make them much bigger. The FDA lists the powerful healing substance on Schedule 1, meaning no therapeutic use and high potential for abuse. Absurd. I will deschedule Ibogaine and all psychedelic medications. And this was back from January 9th of 2024 when RFK was still in the presidential race. He actually made it happen, guys. That's pretty cool, right? So what is Ibogaine? Well, Ibogaine is actually a psychoactive alkaloid, and it comes from the root bark of the African shrub called Tabernanthe iboga. And it's been used for centuries in traditional African spiritual and healing ceremonies. It actually hits multiple brain systems like opioid receptors, serotonin receptors, sigma, and NMDA receptors. When it gets metabolized into noribogaine, it actually acts like a natural serotonin reuptake inhibitor. You know, like those SSRI, chemical pharmaceuticals claim to do. Yeah, this actually does naturally, which may explain its antidepressant effects. So let's take a look at what is Ibogaine video.
Ibogaine is a hydrochloride. It is a purified version of a plant called iboga that comes from a root bark in central Western Africa, in Gabon. It has a particular effect on the brain chemistry in three very important ways, particularly for PTSD, depression, and chemical dependency. One, it resets to the pre-addicted state, the serotonin 1 and serotonin 2 system. In normal chemical dependency treatment, when you take away the substance, there's severe depression. So that is eliminated or materially reduced. Number two is it resets the kappa opioid receptors to a pre-addicted state. And so there's no withdrawal and there's no craving. And then the third is it upregulates this protein in the brain, a naturally occurring protein called GDNF that causes a human being to feel this sense of purpose, this sense of desire to grow and change. And you see it in
So I'm just going to cut that just a little short for time purposes, but it's kind of amazing all of the things that they can do, that this particular drug can do. Before I move on, I just want to address one comment I just saw in the chat. And I just want to say to JFK Jr. 2024, this person says, my friend from school committed suicide a couple weeks ago on SSRIs, and I'm so sorry. If you guys in chat could just show JFK 2024 some love. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's the promises that pharmaceutical companies give us that they don't deliver. And then later in the show, we'll actually see where they are delivering some amazing things. So what's really exciting about Ibogaine is its use in addiction, because when we look at, the veteran suicides, a lot of times there is addiction associated with that because they're trying to self-medicate. So it appears that Ibogaine resets brain pathways, dramatically reducing withdrawal symptoms and cravings. Let's take a look at that.
For centuries, the Bwiti peoples of West Africa, who primarily reside in Gabon, have used ibogaine, which is an alkaloid from the mother plant iboga, in their spiritual and cultural traditions for centuries. In the mid-60s, an individual who was heroin dependent by the name of Harold Lotsoff encountered ibogaine, and he took it, and it resolved his heroin addiction. Not only did it resolve his heroin addiction, but it resolved any withdrawal that he would have otherwise experienced from abstinence. This touched off a 60-year explosion of observational field data, which has well documented that ibogaine has profound addiction interruption potential when taken by substance-dependent individuals, whether it's opioid, meth, alcohol, or anything else that can cause physiological substance dependency. It is not a now and forevermore cure, but it does create a window of physiological, psychological, and spiritual restoration for an individual to rebuild a shattered life.
So this isn't just another policy. It's actually a very serious attempt to treat mental illness and addiction. The entire crisis that we are experiencing in our nation with tools that they sidelined for decades in favor of failing pharmaceuticals. And veterans are front and center with this. The executive order treats this crisis like the emergency that it is. But how did the narrative spin this? Rogan had something to say about that. Let's take a look.
The other thing, the big conspiracy theory is that Trump is mad at you and he came up to the UFC and he was talking shit to you.
No, it was the opposite.
That video came out and it was like, look, Trump's fucking Joe Rogan getting embarrassed by Trump at the fucking UFC event.
It was literally the opposite. I texted him on Friday about ibogaine, and I was telling him how there's
that's
all
a
these
hallucinogen?
This is the one the vets use.
Yeah.
I told him about it. I said how effective it is, and I said, and it's been held up for so long. And he said, what are you looking for? Are you looking for FDA approval? He goes, it sounds good to me. He said, let's do it. And so literally he sees me at the UFC the next day, shakes my hand and says, it's done.
Wow.
That's what he was saying.
That's so funny.
I was like, and I said, thank you, sir. It wasn't like he was mad at me at all.
People jump on these like conclusions like...
Well, that's okay. You're allowed to. But this is the truth. That's exactly what happened. He came to me and he said, it's done. We're going to take care of it. This is a good thing. It's a good thing for the soldiers. It's a good thing for everybody. And then he had the press conference the next week.
You see how they spin it? That Trump had nasty things to say to him, but in actuality, he was telling him, your request is done. We're going to have a press conference on it the next week. This is the deception that we are distilling and giving you the truth about here. Additionally, yesterday, Acting Attorney General Blanche signed an order moving FDA-approved, state-licensed marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, putting it in the same category as meds like codeine. What did not happen, that you may have seen everywhere deceptively, was that, oh my God, they've moved all marijuana to Schedule 3. No, they didn't. They are moving state-licensed marijuana, FDA-approved marijuana, medical marijuana, from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, which just opens things up for them to do additional research on the medicinal properties. The Attorney General is also fast-tracking a full review. This is the part that they got confused about. He's fast-tracking a full review on marijuana with a hearing in June that may or may not reschedule all marijuana. So we'll be watching for that. The bottom line, this is a huge shift that treats medical marijuana more like a medicine and less like a top-tier dangerous drug. And it allows them to do a lot more research. Trump has been very vocal, particularly about CBD and use for like pain in seniors, and trying to move them off some of these pharmaceuticals to more natural pain relief. Okay, on Monday, the 21st, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced that the annual flu vaccine will now be voluntary and not mandated for all active duty, reserve service members, and Department of War civilian personnel effective immediately. This replaces a long-standing mandate, I didn't know this, that's been in place for our military since the 1950s. Of course, the public health narrative is that this is reckless politics over readiness, that is going to endanger troops and our national security? Well, let's hear from Pete Hegseth.
Under the disastrous Biden administration, this Pentagon waged an unrelenting war on our warriors on many fronts, including when it came to denying them simple medical autonomy and the freedom to express their religious convictions. In other words, our men and women in uniform were forced to choose between their conscience and their country, even when those decisions posed no threat to our military readiness. You know what I'm talking about, what happened, COVID-19 and the vaccine. No more. That era of betrayal is over. Under President Trump, the War Department continues to take decisive action to once again restore freedom and strength to our joint force. We're seizing this moment to discard any absurd, overreaching mandates that only weaken our warfighting capabilities. In this case, this includes the universal flu vaccine and the mandate behind it. The notion that a flu vaccine must be mandatory for every service member everywhere in every circumstance at all times is just overly broad and not rational. Our new policy is simple. If you, an American warrior entrusted to defend this nation, believe that the flu vaccine is in your best interest, then you are free to take it. You should. But we will not force you, because your body, your faith, and your convictions are not negotiable. Your health. It's common sense. It's the kind of common sense approach we're undertaking in this department. Rest assured that under President Trump, the War Department will always honor our brave warriors and do everything we can to restore the American people's trust in their military for generations to come. And that's why I'm proud to sign this new policy.
Now let's consider some actual data. This is from Nick Hulsher, epidemiologist with the McCullough Foundation. Let's take a look.
We're seizing this moment to discard any absurd, overreaching mandates that only weaken our warfighting capabilities. In this case, this includes the universal flu vaccine and the mandate behind it.
Clearly, these two studies show that not only does the flu vaccination increase your risk of flu by 27%, and that study was by Shrestha and colleagues out of the Cleveland Clinic. Over 40,000 people were in that study. So this is a robust study, very credible. And then the other study found 340% increased risks of other viruses when you get the flu shot. And so not only are you getting more flu, you're getting more coronaviruses and more infections. And it's just ridiculous.
So that Cleveland Clinic study that he references, what they did was, Cleveland Clinic is a huge facility. And what they did was they compared the vaccinated employees, flu vaccinated employees, with the unvaccinated flu employees. And what they found out was that of their employees, the ones that got the flu vaccine that year got the flu 27% more than the unvaccinated employees. Now make that make sense, right? And then he also cited the other study, 340% increase in other respiratory illnesses. So, there's two major camps, and if Patrick were here, he would be back and forth with me on this because he very strongly feels in this one camp. But I'll present them to you just for purposes of understanding. So, the mainstream germ theory claims that viruses and germs are the primary cause of disease. They attack and infect, and the solution is vaccines and antivirals. The alternative theory is called terrain theory, and it claims that disease actually comes from an internal terrain issue, things that are, it's affected by things like your diet or toxins, etc. So if we're moving away from mandated vaccines, it's actually shifting us from a pure germ as the enemy model toward recognizing terrain, that actual individual health and resilience also matter in the disease equation. All right, so we're going to do a little quick intermission break. And Tulip Blooms is actually offering a Mother's Day special. And so if you go to, let me put my banner up. If you go to tulipblooms.shop/collections/BB's favorites, you'll see the collection that Patrick and Ashley put together of the products from Tulip Blooms that are my favorites. But you can use any products in the Tulip Blooms line to put together a basket for mom. And the more you put into the basket, the more savings you will have. And if you go to tulipblooms.shop and you use code DOSES, you will save an additional 10% off the already amazing Mother's Day specials. Again, that's tulipblooms.shop, promo code DOSES. All right. So RFK Jr. You know, when I write the junior on there, I just want to say JFK. RFK Jr.'s fiscal year 2027 round of budget hearings for the HHS's 2027 budget. They all wrapped up this past Wednesday, 2 days ago, with appearances before the Senate Finance Committee and the Senate Help Committee. Senator Ron Johnson dropped a bombshell accusing Biden-era officials of actually hiding COVID vaccine safety signals. Both the myocarditis signal in young males and the ischemic stroke signal in people over age 65 after they took Pfizer boosters. He also claims that there was masking of adverse events in VAERS, and VAERS is the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System through the CDC, where they're supposed to be tracking these adverse vaccine events. Well, apparently the algorithm that they were using was masking adverse events. It was a flawed algorithm. Let's take a look at the video from Senator Ron Johnson.
Finally, let's just put up this graph. Because of your radical transparency, I've got close to 11 million pages. You know, we uncovered they hid the signal on myocarditis. We also just recently uncovered that they also hid a signal on ischemic stroke for people over 65, the tail end 2022, 2023. They hid both signals. They downplayed them. But what is most alarming, and we'll be holding a hearing on this next week, I've got a draft report. They were made aware, Peter Marks was made aware on March 26th of 2021 that the inventors of the algorithm that analyzes the VAERS data was going to mask adverse events. He was told that by using a different system, they had uncovered 49 examples of extreme masking, 25 significant adverse events, including sudden cardiac death, Bell's palsy, pulmonary infarction. So this report will be issued in conjunction with that hearing. Again, I didn't need a sophisticated mathematical model to tell me that we had safety signals screaming at us. This chart shows the deaths associated with vaccines all the way going back to 1990 when VAERS started, a couple hundred a year. Anaphylactic shock, that type of thing. 2021, over 20,000 deaths, and for 5 years, FDA has been saying, we don't see a signal. This was a signal screaming at us that to this very day, we are covering up. So there are a bunch of people involved in this cover-up that still continue to work within the HHS, CDC, FDA. I want your commitment that those people will be made available for interviews. I'll have to subpoena others. I'm going to dig into this massive government.
You have my commitment.
Thank you.
So next Tuesday, actually, before I talk about next Tuesday, he was referencing Peter Marks. Well, Peter Marks was actually the head of the FDA's vaccine division during the Biden administration. And he was made aware in March of 2021 of this issue with the algorithms and the masking of the data and the safety signals. And they covered it up. He was forced out of the FDA in April of 2025. That's the spring of 2025. In the fall of 2025, in October, want to guess where he went? Go ahead, guess. You guessed it. A pharmaceutical company, Eli Lilly. Isn't that how it always goes? Yeah. So, next Tuesday, April the 29th, Senator Ron Johnson is going to be holding a permanent subcommittee on investigations hearing titled Unmasked: How Biden Health Officials Purposefully Turned a Blind Eye Toward COVID-19 Vaccine Safety Signals. And that is going to be again on Tuesday at 2:30 in the afternoon. And we will be monitoring and we'll be keeping you up to date on the information that is revealed during that hearing. So, yesterday, President Trump announced the 17th and final most favored nation pricing deal with Regeneron Pharmaceuticals. And I love that the Rapid Response 47 put this out. In July, President Trump sent letters to 17, that's right, 17 of them, 17 of the world's largest drug companies, demanding they take action to bring down prescription drug prices for the American people. Today, the 17th and final company, again, emphasizing the 17, Regeneron answered the call. Much more to come. So, yeah, all 17 major pharmacy companies targeted in those letters sent out last July. All 17. That is full pharma capitulation in only 9 months. It's astounding when you think about it. Trump described it as delivering the biggest cut in drug prices in the history of our country. Let's hear from Trump.
Today, I'm thrilled to announce that one of the most respected pharmaceutical companies anywhere in the world, frankly, I know it very well, is Regeneron, and it's agreed to offer their prescription medications at heavily discounted most favored nation prices. In other words, the numbers will come down at levels that nobody's ever seen before. The whole most favored nation thing that we've been able to do with Bobby and Maz and everybody behind me, Marty, has been incredible. It's the biggest price reduction in drugs in history.
Amazing. Additionally, Trump announced that the FDA has approved a treatment that cures a disease that causes deafness. The gene therapy Otarmeni targets what's called OTOF-related hearing loss. It's a rare genetic condition. So this is actually an example of a pharmaceutical company actually creating something that is curative. I know it's rare, right? We have to highlight this because it is rare. Most pharmaceuticals are just managing the symptoms. This one is actually a cure for a rare genetic condition. And the company Regeneron has agreed to provide this treatment free of charge, which is amazing. This is a huge, huge step forward for families who are affected by this condition. So this is major. I'm going to just show you a couple of extra things because, of course, we're flying by the seat of our pants this evening because Patrick is supposed to join us. But again, it's a travel thing. So, when you're trying to put together a show like this and you're making sure it's going to be an hour and no more than an hour, it's kind of precision driven. And so you're making sure that you have time for the information and time for discussion. Well, there's nobody here where I'm having any discussion. So we're running short. But I did find something that I will share with you that Secretary Kennedy has put out. We'll share a couple of these because I thought they were kind of awesome. We'll share this one first. Let me bring this one up. I thought it was kind of cute. Maha maxing. It's a noun. When Make America Healthy Again isn't just a slogan, it's a lifestyle. Your groceries actually look like they came from the earth and not a lab. You're ending chronic disease by taking back your health. So we're just going to start using this one. We're Maha maxing. I loved this one. I thought this was great. They are really getting creative over there with what they're putting out. And then I thought this one was good too. Let me show you guys this one. Bring it up. Okay, here we go. This is from Kennedy on X. 48 million Americans, he just put this out an hour ago, struggle with addiction, and too many still navigate a fragmented health system that fails to communicate. HHS is fixing this, ensuring technology enables the secure, appropriate exchange and use of health information to improve outcomes for Americans facing mental health and addiction challenges. Let's listen to the video.
I'm pleased to welcome Secretary Kennedy, co-chair of the Great American Recovery Initiative.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS secretary. 48 million Americans suffer from addiction, and almost half the people in our country have a family member whose addiction is impacting their lives. It's costing our country nearly $1 trillion a year. Addicts touch government interventions in many ways, and law enforcement, they go to detox programs, they go to a rehab, they go to the sober housing, and none of those systems is talking to each other. Too many clinicians are forced to make decisions without a complete picture.
The goal is to use technology to improve access, affordability, and outcomes in all care settings. My name is Tom Keene. I'm the National Coordinator for Health Information Technology. Under Secretary Kennedy's leadership, we are committed to making sure that all patient treatment records and all patient data move privately and securely so that patients can get the treatment that they need.
People do recover from this, and they lead very successful lives, and they all can look just like you and me. I'm Catherine Burgum, Senior White House Advisor for Addiction and Recovery and co-chair of the Great American Recovery Initiative. And this initiative is all about facing and treating addiction like a chronic disease. We're going to build a system across America that does not leave any Americans behind.
There's no MAHA without mental health.
My name is Patrick Kennedy. I'm a person in long-term recovery. We need to appreciate all of the downstream costs of not treating this illness. And if we could get the full actuarial impact of this on our nation, it would justify a much bigger upfront investment to help prevent these addictions from beginning in the first place.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
So that's pretty awesome. All right, well, we're going to end here. I know it's ending early. I'm sorry Patrick was not able to join us. When there's travel, sometimes things happen and you're not in control of it. So, but he will be joining us again next week. We'll be back Friday next week, 5 p.m. for the next episode of Deception Distilled, Clarity in the Chaos. And we will definitely be bringing you all of the updates of Senator Johnson's hearing. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Here he is, the man. Patrick, I was getting ready to end us because I wasn't sure if you were going to make it. I'm so glad you were able to make it. So tell everybody where you are.
Nothing happens quickly. Yeah, I'm in New York. I'm on Long Island. It's a very long island, and when they call it a long island, they don't necessarily just mean the dimensions. They mean how long you have to wait for things, and how long it feels like until your flight home.
There you go. Drink your coffee. I'm glad you
There we
made it
go.
up there safely. So, what are you in Long Island for? Tell us.
I'm here for the Awakening Summit, and we're going to be talking about awakening and just being generally awake. And so
Nice.
it should be a great time.
Very good.
What have you been talking about here? What have you been talking about here on Deception Distilled?
Well, now we're going to do a recap, everybody. You ready to recap for Patrick? Okay, so we talked about President Trump's, I'm going back, President Trump's executive order on psychedelics and how important that is, and the whole thing about ibogaine, right? Because in the executive order, he specifically talks about ibogaine.
Yeah.
And
What is
that
that stuff anyway? It's not just magic mushrooms or anything like that.
No,
is
no,
it?
no. No. So ibogaine, it actually, like we were talking about, it is from the root bark of a plant, a shrub, actually, African shrub in Africa, the Ibernanthe iboga plant. And they've been using it for centuries in African healing and spiritual ceremonies. So it's been in use for centuries. But it hits multiple brain areas, different pathways, like your opioid receptors, your serotonin receptors, importantly, and MDA receptors. When it gets metabolized, it metabolizes down into something called noribogaine. And this one's really important because that one is a natural serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So just like pharmaceutical SSRIs claim to be, except this actually works and it's natural. Now, one of the things about it, because actually it was News Trees and Dave and I did a show on ibogaine like 7 months ago. And what they're in Texas, they have a very robust psychedelic program that's happening. And with this executive order, HHS is giving an additional $50 million to support states like Texas. But what they identified was that first, drugs like ibogaine, psychedelics, have this hallucinogenic property, right? Ibogaine also has potential cardiotoxic properties, which is why you're not just going to go down to the pharmacy and pick it up and take it home and use it. It needs to be cardiotoxic, heart toxic, right? But the research in Texas is a physician in Texas who actually administered to veterans ibogaine along with magnesium, and it completely negated all of the cardiotoxicity. So they've already addressed that. And there's two institutions in Texas currently studying how to retain all of the therapeutic properties without the hallucinogenic. So
that just seems like taking away one of the selling points.
For some, maybe. But for others, people may not want to go through that hallucinogenic phase so that they are no longer addicted to, alcohol or,
Are they microdosing the stuff? I mean, are they giving people big doses of it? Is it making them trip balls, or is it just kind of mild?
They're doing all kinds of different trials, but the whole point of the executive order is first that it's going to hopefully reschedule it. So the Attorney General is actually in this executive order directed to reschedule things like ibogaine, which are currently Schedule 1, like heroin and LSD, and make it Schedule 3, which puts it like on the same par as codeine, if they go through clinical trials and it's showing safety and effectiveness. They're going to reschedule it potentially. So it's kind
putting
of
it-
huge.
yeah. Putting it in the same category as codeine, which is like wildly addictive, and which, by the way, is about as natural as it gets. All you got to do is cut open a poppy at the right time, and it just bleeds, ready to go codeine. I was blown away when I found that out. But yeah, if it helps these people, that's magnificent. I'm excited
Yeah.
about it.
Well, and the big thing about the executive order is it's really focused, it has the veterans front and center because, one of the stats, I'll read these stats to you because it's the stats are horrible. 14 million American adults have serious mental illness. 8 million are on prescription meds. And right now, more than 6,000 veterans die of suicide every year. And since 9/11, more veterans have died by suicide than in combat. Like, that's
Okay,
unacceptable.
So 6,000 veterans are killing themselves every year.
Yeah.
Now, I don't really know how many veterans we have in this country at any given time, but has anybody studied how that compares to the general population with suicide? Is it a factor of 3, 4? Because I know that there are many veterans in this country because the moment you serve and then you're no longer serving, bam, you're a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a big standing army. So I got to think maybe we have like 20 million veterans in this country. 6,000 out of 20 million. Is that how does that compare to the general population? That's one of the first things I'd want to know. And second, are they showing suicide rates in the non-ibogaine population as opposed to suicide rates in the post-ibogaine population? I bet you that data is also available.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm just doing a quick Grok search. How do veteran suicides compare to, U.S. citizens? I'm weaning.
These psychedelics are weird compounds. I don't really know how they work, but I do know that they're definitely for sure, at least for me, not the opposite of addictive. If anything, they have an anti-do it again kind of effect on you. You do it, and then you feel absolutely no desire to do it again. And then the only reason you do it again is because it's around, or it's because you happen to be at the right party or whatever. But that has always been my experience. I've never ever craved mushrooms in my life. And back in the day, I did it a few times.
Well, here's some data from 2023, which is the most full recent data. And this is again from Grok. The veteran suicide rate, 35.2 per 100,000. The non-veteran rate, 16.9 per 100,000.
So they're twice as likely to kill themselves as non-veterans. Yeah. That is a statistically significant number.
Yeah.
But it's also a number that's important to keep in perspective. So it's not like your veteran friends are all killing themselves. It is still a rate that is a relatively small number per 100,000 people. So just keeping that in perspective, of course.
And then the other thing we talked about, they are rescheduling. Let me throw this one up. They're rescheduling. Oh, this one was interesting. This was from 2024. This is RFK when he was still in the presidential race, January of 24, where he is saying, "I will deschedule ibogaine and all psychedelics," and he did it. He did it.
Boom. Hey, look at a dude keeping a promise, just staying on it too.
Oh yeah. I loved that when I was able to find that one. So the other thing that they did, this was yesterday, AG Blanche signed an order moving FDA approved state licensed marijuana to Schedule 3, putting it on the same category again as codeine, and it fast tracks a review hearing in June that may reschedule all marijuana to Schedule 3.
Codeine is kind of hard to get your hands on, I think.
At this point.
And so I don't really know what the schedules are. I just know Schedule 1 is hard time for having it on your person or something?
I think with most of this rescheduling of this stuff, I don't think it's going to change access for the average person. But I think where it really makes a difference is in the ability to do the research. I think that's where it makes the biggest impact. And then we had Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced that the flu vaccine is now voluntary. And you missed my. I might have to replay this. What kind of time we got?
We
got a couple minutes. So I had a germ theory versus terrain theory discussion all by myself without you.
Oh, okay, nice.
So now I'm gonna replay the one video so that you can weigh in because it's important. So essentially, Pete Hegseth says, "Hey, look, we're not going to make the flu vaccines mandatory anymore. It's going to be voluntary." And I had no idea that for Department of War employees, both active duty reservists and the civilian personnel, that it's been mandatory for them to get a flu vaccine every year since the 50s. I know. But Nick Holscher, epidemiologist from the McCullough Foundation, actually brought some data about flu vaccines. So I'll replay that video for you.
We're seizing this moment to discard any absurd, overreaching mandates that only weaken our warfighting capabilities. In this case, this includes the universal flu vaccine and the mandate behind it.
Clearly, these two studies show that not only does the flu vaccination increase your risk of flu by 27%, and that study was by Shrestha and colleagues out of the Cleveland Clinic. Over 40,000 people were in that study. So this is a robust study, very credible. And then the other study found 340% increased risks of other viruses when you get the flu shot. And so not only are you getting more flu, you're getting more coronaviruses and more infections, and it's just ridiculous.
So then what I did was I presented the whole, germ theory, basically, and this is what I said, was that germ theory essentially claims viruses and germs are the primary cause of illness. And because of that, then we have to treat, the only solution is with, vaccines and antivirals. And that the terrain theory, actually, it claims that illness comes from a weakened terrain, which can come from things like diet or toxins, etc. So you weigh in here.
Yeah. It was funny. Kate referred to it as bucket theory, but I consider it to be basically the same concept. You can only have so much trash in your system before your body responds by trying to get rid of it. And what we call sickness is, for the most part, the body's attempt to get rid of it. Now, I do want to jump in and talk about some of these statistical arguments that dude was making. He says, first of all, with a flu vaccine, you're 340% more likely to get the flu. Wait, what is the flu? Well, the flu is a person getting sick. It is fairly nonspecific. There is no real flu test. There is a bullshit PCR nonsense machine that puts out positives, but it's always just bullshit. It's a magic 8-ball. Typically, it will be testing for human DNA. When you are sick, you are shedding tons of DNA. You're going to test positive for all sorts of stuff when you're sick. So 340% more likely to get the flu. I'm just going to translate that into 340% more likely to get sick. Furthermore,
well, wait a minute, because what he was saying was you're 27% more likely to get the flu, but with the flu vaccine, you're 340% more likely to get other illnesses, other respiratory illnesses.
Flu, other illnesses.
Same thing.
It's a freaking priest in a white coat writing some bullshit down on a chart. It's a dude who's sick. So the next part is, well, what kind of person is going to go seeking out a flu shot? And it's a person who gets sick a lot. So you have confounding variables here as well, because you could be seeking out a population that's naturally always going to be getting sicker. So it's like saying, the people who take what is the drug? Suboxone, man, they tend to be real big heroin addicts. Suboxone is causing all this heroin addiction. No, you're getting your cause and effect reversed. Another thing that I would point out is that We have no idea what's in those flu vaccines. We have no freaking idea. Okay.
Nope.
But we also, that means we don't really know if it's poisoning us. I'm not saying
Right.
it isn't.
Well, we do know that there's aluminum in them, and we do know that aluminum is neurotoxic. So we know there is at least one toxin in them.
And okay, so let's take aluminum.
Yes.
Aluminum is one of the only things out there that you could pretty much say you could do anything you want with this stuff, but for the love of God, just don't inject it. You could put it on your
Exactly.
skin. You can even eat aluminum and you'll probably be just fine. But for God's sake, just don't inject it. And so that's one of those big ones for me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't
And then they
inject
tell us to
aluminum.
inject it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an adjuvant. It makes your immune system get all angry and kill the bad bugs. That's all horseshit. None of that was ever true.
I have to completely agree with you on that, because here's the one question that when I woke up, I started to ask, right? And understand, Patrick, I've had over 30 flu vaccines. We're mandated to get them every year as healthcare providers, right? In the hospital settings. So, okay, if aluminum is an adjuvant in a vaccine designed to augment your body's immune response to the vaccine, then the next logical the next logical question is, or to make but it's in there to make the vaccine work better, right?
Yes,
that's what it's in there for. So the next logical question is, okay, well, how does the flu vaccine work against flu without the adjuvant? Well, we have zero data on that. Zero. So is my immune system responding to the aluminum, or is my immune system responding to the vaccine? We don't have that data either.
I would respond by saying there's really no such thing as an immune system in the way that we've been taught that there is an immune system. There is a comprehensive system in the body designed to make you better when you are sick. But we've been taught that there is a system that goes and builds specific antibodies to specific pathogens and uses those antibodies to link up with those things like the key. There's no evidence to support any of those claims. So while there is a system designed to make you better, it doesn't work the way that you've been taught that it works. And the way that it actually works is something that we kind of have to keep groping around in the dark for, because the institutions that were supposed to figure all that stuff out made up a whole bunch of nonsense over 100 years ago. And the actual way that life works is a closely guarded secret that we peasants are not allowed to have for free.
Well, here's interesting, because when I allegedly got COVID, I got it in 2021, I guess, when Omicron was hitting. Allegedly, Omicron. I tested. I know. I tested positive, and I waited 6 weeks, and I went and paid, and it was hefty. I paid $175 to have the antibody tests drawn. Meaning, because basically what I was trying to do, I mean, my motivation was, I was trying not to, they were mandating a COVID vaccine on me. I wasn't going to take it. So the idea of having the antibody test was to say, hey, I've already had COVID. See, I have antibodies to COVID. I don't need to take a vaccine. Well, guess what? I had no antibodies. I know.
Wow.
So it supports what you're saying. I had something, and I can tell you that it was different. Whatever it was I had was very different than other illnesses. And the only way I remember at the time, I described it as it felt chemical.
Oh yeah,
It felt chemical, like I could taste metal in my mouth. It just felt chemical to me.
I've never actually tasted metal in my mouth before. I've heard stories of people talking about how they taste metal, and it's caused by injections or sometimes extreme fight or flight response or whatever. But one of the things that I have heard is that poisonings can result in that. Now, one thing we can say pretty confidently during the COVID time was that people got sick. You know how I know? Because people always get sick, but it's how they go about interpreting their sicknesses. Now, because you're going to get sick sometime between now and the end of your life. There's no way you're going to stay perfectly healthy between now and the end of your life. It doesn't happen. So when you do get sick, if you think it's going to kill you, or if you think it's this ravaging death virus that's got a hold of you, the way that you're going to handle that sickness is going to be very different than if it's just, oh, I'm sick, I better go sit in a sauna and sweat this crap out and drink, fluids and stuff. So I think that if you tell everybody that there's a death virus going to kill them all, every time somebody gets sick, that sickness is going to induce panic, and that panic is going to cause some psychosomatic symptoms. I'm not saying that you're experiencing those, but I am saying that every illness during that era you're going to be examining every single symptom as if, oh my gosh, is it this horrible thing that's going to kill me? Second, I do think that there were definitely weird instances of lots of people getting very sick all at once in concentrated areas, which would support epidemiologically, it would support a poisoning diagnosis, like dump it in the well, and then a whole bunch of people in a very densely populated area get sick. Like that Jewish doctor, Dr. Z.
Dr. Zelenko.
That's that dude. Okay, so he was in and he described it this way as the most densely populated area of the United States. It's 1 square mile with like 30,000 people. And they all got horrible symptoms. And he treated them by giving them the mumps virus, which made no friggin' sense whatsoever by any standard of how vaccines work. He treated it by giving them the mumps vaccine. So he treated mumps with the mumps vaccine. Isn't that supposed to not work in the existing paradigm?
Yeah, one would think.
The horse is out of the barn. Why are we giving these people vaccines? But everything about what Zelenko described indicates, okay, somebody dumped some stuff in the water, or somebody sprayed some stuff on the food,
something.
It's like I have a sandwich shop somewhere that everybody in the community goes to. You just spray some stuff on their food. That would explain it way more than a virus, which has never been found, isolated, or characterized.
Well, that's very, very interesting. So the other thing we covered was RFK, because last week we were covering RFK doing the budget hearings. Well, he wrapped all those up on Wednesday. He went before the Senate Finance Committee and the Senate Help Committee. And Senator Ron Johnson, man, there was a lot of great clips, but the one that was the bombshell was he is accusing Biden-era officials of hiding COVID vaccine safety data. So apparently his permanent subcommittee on investigations subpoenaed and got from HHS, from RFK, like 11 million pages of data that they've been pouring through. And what they found was that, of course, they had already discovered the myocarditis signal in young males had been covered up. They also found that ischemic stroke signal in those over the age of 65 that got Pfizer boosters was also covered up. And then apparently there was information in those pages where Peter Marks, who was the head of the FDA's vaccine division under Biden, was made aware that the algorithm that analyzes VAERS data for vaccine reported injuries, well, that whole algorithm was masking adverse data, things like Bell's palsy, cardiac death, a couple of other really big ones. So let's see, let me show you this. So on Tuesday, this coming week, and at 2:30 in the afternoon, Senator Johnson is going to be having a hearing, and they are going to be blasting out the information that they discovered on how Biden officials purposefully turned a blind eye. And he got it during RFK's Senate, or his hearings on the budget, he got RFK to confirm that he would make available current HHS employees that were involved in this. So this is going to be quite juicy.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
We should do. You're gonna cover it. I'm assuming.
We'll be I'm going to be all over it, and then of course we'll be covering it here next Friday. And then the last thing that we covered, and then we'll scooch on out of here because we are at that 1 hour mark, was that I wanted to show you this because I knew you would get a kick out of this.
Rapid Response 47. In July, President Trump sent letters to 17 of the world's largest drug companies demanding they take action to bring down prescription drug prices for the American people. Today, the 17th and final company, Regeneron, answered the call. Much more to come. By the way, I think Trump bragged about taking Regeneron.
Yes, he did.
During COVID.
Yeah, Regeneron was. He was saying it was a miracle drug. The medication he took when he had COVID. So yeah, it's all very, very interesting. And apparently, Regeneron, one of the rare opportunities that we have, Regeneron actually came out with a drug called Otormani. Let me throw that one up real quick.
Yeah.
That actually cures a rare genetic hearing loss. So they're going to be, out of the goodness of their hearts, Patrick, offering this treatment for free.
Regeneron can cure deafness.
It's a drug that Regeneron made. It's called Otormani. I'll put it back up. Otormani.
I gotta find that. Where is that? What is that drug called? What, can you spell that? That's a weird name.
Otormeni, but it's only for treatment for this very specific OTOF related deafness, which is a rare genetic, because it's actually a gene therapy. So,
okay.
yeah.
I gotta find out more about that.
It's very interesting.
Getting cured is that's, they stopped curing stuff, or if they ever
a long time ago,
curing stuff a long time ago. And I'd like to get back on that. Curing blindness, curing deafness.
Yeah.
Curing fatness.
So I did tell everybody that we will have your tax report next week since you are, a man on the go. I just want to acknowledge a couple of rants. $17 rant from LACBSH. How would you say that? LACBSH. Do you just phonetically spell it out? So grateful for your updates. Well, thank you. And if I am messing up your screen name, I apologize. And then we have a $10 rant from LPLPLP. Thank you for the distillation, BB. Love you and the new show. And Annie BU with a $5 rant. Thank you, BB. We love you. You know your stuff. Well, I just research a lot because I'm a nerd. That's really it. So next week, again, we will be back here Friday, 5 p.m. And of course, we're going to be bringing you all of the updates of this next week's health headlines, of course, all over that Senator Johnson hearing. On Tuesday, on Doses of Deception at 8 p.m. Eastern, I've got Dave from News Treason joining us. So I'll hope you guys will tune in. What do you got coming up? Yeah, I know you got a busy weekend. What do you got coming up?
Oh, yeah, we just got the weekend, and I'm going to, the Pat and Jeff show will be just another interview, which will be great. It's just Jeff doing an interview, and then I'll be at the Awakening Summit. We will return to normal scheduled programs starting Monday, where I will be doing Reading Epic Threads. Stay tuned.
Awesome.
I've got it all mapped out, but then of course the Tuesday show and the Wednesday, you know how it goes.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I know it was difficult. Travel day, all the craziness. We are delighted that you were able to join us. Thank you. And you have your coffee. Yeah. So I'm going to throw in the chat that we are going to be raiding over to Beer at the Parade. So if you guys want to hang out, and you'll just be redirected over to Beer at the Parade. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you guys have a wonderful week. God bless everybody. Thank you so much, Patrick.
Absolutely. Bye.
Bye, guys.